Alright, hello Rainy Math students. In this video I'm going to go over the review. This is the Module 8 review. A reminder that we have a test tomorrow and Friday. Only reason why it's 2 days, it's because 38-minute periods, so we wanted to give you enough time. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with question number 1. So question number 1, it says trapezoid ABCD represents the location of a new picture on the wall. It says describe the translation in words and in coordinate notation. So for this one, we're going to have to do 2 parts. 1, put it in words. Number 2, put it in coordinate notation. So first, in words, what's happening? How are we going from A to A prime? So we're having to move over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. So we say right 7, and then after we go 7 spots to the right, we go down 1, 2, 3, so we put down 3 here. So when we write this, this is going to be our x value. Because we're going to the right, that's a positive 7. Because we're going down, then the y value is y minus 3. Make sure that you put both of your answers in here. And we got Mr. Salvadore coming in. Everyone say hello to Mr. Viramontes. Viramontes, say what's up.
And the only letters that should matter to you are U, C, R.
Thanks, Viramontes. All right, for question number 2, we have the graph of triangle DEF as shown. They want us to graph the image after the translation. 4 units left, 2 units up. So very simple. You take every single coordinate point, or every point I should say, and we go 4 to the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go 2 units up, 1, 2. So my new D value, or D prime, will be there. We do the same thing with the other ones. So for E, once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. It's going to be up here. It's kind of awkward, but that's where it's at. And then for F, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2, puts it there. And we'll call this F prime, D prime, E prime. And then all we do is we take all of our points, we connect them. It looks like this. And then part number 2, they want us to write the coordinate points of D prime, E prime, F prime. So I'm just going to go ahead and write them here. So D prime. This answer for D prime is simply at -6 and 8. For E prime, my new coordinate points are going to be at -1 and 10. And then for F prime, we're going to be at 2 and 4. For question number 3, they say which statement describes a translation from point B to point C. So here's point B right here, and then they're asking us, how do I get here to point C? So for my answer here, the only answer that works is going to be letter B as in boy. It says the point is being translated 4 units right and 1 unit up. For question number 4, they want us to write the coordinate notation to describe the translation. So if you're looking at number 4, how do we go from X to X prime? Very simple. So how do I go from here to here? Okay. This is a shift to the left once. So we're going to write this in words first. We went left 1. And then notice, we didn't go up, we didn't go down. Okay, so there was no movement going up or down. So if you really want to, you could put up or down 0, because it's not going up or down. So when we write this, because it's going to the left, we're going to be subtracting. And because we are not going up or down, you can either put y, or you can simply put y plus 0, or even y minus 0. It really doesn't matter. I personally prefer it just written that way. Lastly, question number 5, they're talking about a quadrilateral. They gave us a rule. They want to know what are the coordinates after the translation. So for this one, all you need to do is we need to list out our A prime, our B prime, our C prime, and our D prime. And we need to give all of our new coordinate points given the rule. So very simply, right, if I start with point A, the x value is -2, and if you notice right here, it's telling me to take the x value, which is -2, and you add 5 to it. And then you take the second value, which is y, and then you subtract 6 from it. So this one is simply going to be 3, -8. This one's going to be 6, -5. This one's going to be 5, -2. And the last one's going to be 2, -1. For question number 6, it says, consider the graph and its image. Describe the reflection. So remember, when we're talking about a reflection, we're talking about a mirror image, right? So whatever was originally on the left side now goes on the right side. Whatever was above now goes below. So first we need to figure out, where is my line of reflection? So in other words, where is the line that is dictating how far something is from the middle? So if you notice, it will be right down here. Why? Because you'll notice to the left is C prime. To the right one spot is the regular C. The same thing happens to the other ones. So it's equidistant, which means the same distance on both sides. Okay? And then they want us to know, or they want us to write, what is the reflection of the image? So you'll notice it's not on the y-axis, it's not on the x-axis, okay? It is cutting through a number on the x-axis, and that number is a +3. So here we would just say a reflection across x equals 3, okay? You'll notice here is the center, 0, and if you count 3 spaces to the right, that's where the line is going through at x equals 3. For number 7, we have a triangle, A, B, C. First, they want us to graph the pre-image, and then they want us to draw the second image after it is reflected across the x-axis. So first, let's start with the original. The A is at 3, 3, so 1, 2, 3 to the right, 3 up. This one is my A. The second one is at 5, -2. 5, -2 is considered here, and that's my B. And then my last one is at 4, 4. So if I go 4 and 4 up, I'm going to have to erase this one because it's currently in my way. Let's put the A over here on this side because 4, 4 is going to be located right there. And we call this one our C. So connect all of your points. First and foremost, you'll notice that it makes a skinny long triangle. And then they want us to do a reflection across the x-axis. So where is the x-axis? The x-axis is simply the axis that runs horizontally from left to right, which is this one right here. Okay. So as before, anything that was above will now be below. Anything that was below will now be above. So let's start with A. From my line of reflection, the A is 3 spaces above, so the opposite of 3 above is 3 below. We put A prime here. My B is 2 spaces below, so now it will be 2 spaces above. We'll call this B prime. And then lastly, my C is 1, 2, 3, 4 above, so now it's 1, 2, 3, 4 below. We call this one the C prime. And just as before, you take your pencil, you connect the points here, and you'll notice that it's a reflection across the x-axis. And then last but not least, they want us to write our coordinate points, sure. So the A prime is going to be at 3, -3. My B prime is going to be at 5, 2. And my C prime is going to be at 4, -4. For question number 8, they want to know what is happening in the transformation. So you'll notice there are 2 quadrilaterals. One's on one side, the other one is on the other side. So if we just go through these, is it going 2 units up? So if I push everything 2 units up, is that where my new one is? No, absolutely not. That one doesn't work. Is it going 2 units down? So is it drawn down here? No, it is not, so it can't be that one. So it's got to be a reflection, right? You'll notice here that my line of reflection will be here, okay? And that is my y-axis. So the only one that says reflection across the y-axis is going to be letter D. And then for number 9, it says the vertices of PQRS are listed. Find the coordinates of the vertices if it has a clockwise rotation of 270 degrees. So I'm getting this straight from my notes, okay, the notes that I gave you guys. So if you look at your notes that I gave you, I believe this is 8-3, part 1, if I'm not mistaken. If there's a 270 degree rotation, then the rule is that the x now becomes the x but on the back side, or the new y essentially. And then the y becomes a negative y, but it goes on to the front part. Again, this is just coming straight from your notes after a 270 degree rotation, right? And then they want to know, okay, well, now that I have that, what are going to be my coordinate points? So I'm going to list here my coordinate points. So if I do the P, the Q, the R, and then we'll put the S over here off to the side. The P now becomes a -5 and a -1. Why? Because the original P was -1 for the X value. Now that went to the back. And then there was a +5 for the Y, but it's telling me to change it to the opposite and put it in the front, and that's why I got -5, -1. So this one would then be a -4, a +3. This one would be a +4 and a +2. This one would now become a +2 and now a -3 for question number 9. For question number 10, we have a triangle, and it's telling us that there's a 90 degree rotation. So again, from the same exact notes, there's a rule, and it tells me that if I am rotating something 90 degrees, then my rule is that I'm going to take my x, and I'm going to put it on the back, and it's going to become the opposite. And then I simply take my y, and that will become the new y here. Once again, this is just the rules that I gave you, okay? And then all I need to do now is to figure out my new coordinate points. So I'm going to need to figure out the j prime, the k prime, the l prime. So starting with the first one, if you look at j, right? The j is a 3 and a -7. So originally the 3 was the x, it now moves to the back and it becomes the opposite, so that makes it a -3. And then the y stays exactly what it is. So the y value was originally a -7, so guess what? It stays a -7. And if you do that for the rest of these, this becomes a -3 and a -7. And then the last one is simply a 7 and a -3. For question number 11, they want us to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, okay? So if you have patty paper, obviously you're going to need to use it to do number 11. If you don't have access to patty paper, just use a scratch sheet of paper, something that you're able to draw directly on and then just rotate, okay? So tomorrow, just remember, we will be giving you a patty paper, so that way you have. But essentially what happens is once you rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, right, around the origin, then my new x value is simply going to be here. And here simply means to the left one, over. And again, I can't do it because of my iPad. But if you have your patty paper, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Or not even, you don't even need patty paper, but if we just rotate it 90 degrees, this is what it would look like. So from here, this one would be 3 units off to the side. This would be our new W, and then our new Z would be somewhere over here, and this would be my new Z prime, okay? And then all I do is I simply connect those using my feature here that I have, and it looks like that, okay? So again, a 90 degree rotation clockwise. Clockwise just means going in the same direction as a clock, right? And then lastly, we need to give the new coordinate point. So we have w, x prime, y prime, z prime. You're just taking a look at where these are located. This is going to be at 3 and 6 now. This is going to be at negative 3 and 5. This one's going to be at negative 3 and 1. And this one's going to be at 3 and 2. All right, for number 12, they gave us a trapezoid, okay, and they want to know that if we rotated Q prime, right, and it's now at 2, 3, so if I go to my coordinate grid and I go right 2, up 3, this is my new Q prime, they want to know what type of rotation happened, right? And so if we go through these, you'll notice that if it went to the right, right, that's clockwise. If it went to the left, it's counterclockwise. So if we go through each one of these, right, 270 degrees counterclockwise, that could be it. 180 degrees would mean that it's somewhere over here. That's not the case, so it can't be that one. Once again, it can't be that one, okay? But more specifically, if you were to compare the coordinate points, right, the original Q, this one here, is at negative 3 and 2. And if we take a look at the new coordinate point, which is the Q prime, this one is now at 2 and 3. So what I did is I simply took a look at the previous page, right? And I thought to myself, if it's a 90 degrees rotation, if you look at question number 10, then this means that this one would also have to be a 90-degree rotation because of how the coordinate points changed. So in this case, it's not a counterclockwise rotation, it's simply a 90 degrees clockwise rotation about the origin. The other way to do it would be if you had patty paper, or in your guys' case, if you're at home and you're doing just a regular scratch sheet of paper, if you were to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise around the origin, you would see that that's where the new Q would end up. For question number 13, it's just simply asking us, describe the dilation. Remember, dilation is when something either gets smaller or bigger. Smaller is a reduction. Bigger means an enlargement, right? So it says describe the dilation. So they want us to go from the PQRS, which is the small one inside, to the WXYZ. So if it's going from small to big, we say that this is an enlargement. It's getting bigger, right? And as I have been telling my students, okay, and I'm sure Mr. Rogers has done the same thing, you choose a point, any point you want. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to choose that point there, which means that the corresponding point is this one here. So I'm comparing the Q to the X, right? So if I'm comparing the Q to the X, the question is, how is it getting bigger? By what scale factor? So for Q, that is simply at 0, 1. Or sorry, for Q, that is at 0, 1. Yep. And then for X, that is at 0, 2. Right? And then if I compare the numbers, right, I'm not going to compare the X's, right, the X value, because they're zeros. So then if I look at the 1 and the 2, the question is it 1 over 2 or 2 over 1, right? Is it getting smaller? Is it getting bigger? We said it's getting bigger. The scale factor has to be more than 1. So the only answer that it can be is this one here, right? So then after I do that, then I have to write the coordinate notation. Since my scale factor is a 2 over 1 or simply a 2. So my final answer would look like this. I will do it in the color green to make your life easier. It started off with XY. And because there was a scale factor of 2, then that now means that everything is growing by 2 times the value of X and 2 times the value of Y, and that's how you would do question number 13. And then for question number 14, they gave us a triangle, and then it says find the new coordinate points if the image is dilated by a scale factor of 4. So that means if I have a scale factor of 4, right, that's a number greater than 1, which means this is going to be getting bigger. When you make something bigger, that's called an enlargement, okay? And all you do here is you're going to multiply everything times 4. So you're going to multiply all your coordinate points times 4. So the new m, we take our 1, we multiply it times 4, that gives you 4. You take your 3, you multiply it by 4, it gives you 12. And then for the n and the p, this now becomes a 16 and a 12. And then for your p prime, this now becomes a 4 and a 4 here. For number 15, they want us to write, or they want us to show, that if something has a scale factor of 1/2, they want us to graph, okay, after that dilation. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to graph the coordinate points that were given, because it says graph the figure and the image, so we need to graph both of them. So the first one is simply at -8, 4, so I start from the dead center and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my first point is there. We call this one my H. My J is at 6, 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 4 is here. This one is my J, as I have said. My K is at 6, -4. So 6 to the right, down 4 would put it here. We call this one my K. And then last but not least, my L is at -8, -4, which is going to put it here. And that one is my letter L. So when I close those off, you'll notice this creates a rectangle, right? And then it says they want us to dilate it with a scale factor of 1/2. So 1/2 is the same thing as 0.5. 0.5 or 1/2 is a number less than 1, which means that my new dilation has to be a reduction. So all I do is I take half of all of those coordinate points that I have. So half of -8 is a -4. Half of 4 is a 2. So the first one would be at -4, 2. And this is going to be my H prime. And then I do the same thing to all the rest of them. Half of 6 is 3. Half of 4 is 2. So then I go to 3, 2, which puts it here. And this becomes my new J prime. And then half of 6 is 3. Half of -4 is -2. So I go to 3. Oops, did I do that wrong? I might have done -4. Good. Oh, I see what I did. Half of 6 is 3, and then -2, which would put it over here. And then this would be the K prime. And then lastly, half of -8 is a -4. Half of -4 is a -2. So that would put it here. And this would be my L prime. So my new image is a dilation. It's half the size of the original, which means that it would look like that. And then it says graph the figure and the image, and I don't need to do anything else for that one. And then for the very last one, sorry that I had to zoom out so much, but there's 4 answer choices underneath, so I needed to make sure that I displayed them all. It's saying which shows polygon A rotated 180 degrees counterclockwise. So clockwise, counterclockwise does not matter when you are dealing with 180 degrees. It means it's just going to be on the opposite side of where it's currently at. So if you notice my picture, okay, if I go down 1, that means that it's 90 degrees. And then I would need to rotate again, which means that it would need to be somewhere here for it to be 180 degrees. If you look at my possible answer choices, A is not in there in that bottom left corner. B is not in the bottom left corner. I mean, technically it is, but it's not facing in the right direction. So the only one that would work in this case is going to be letter C, because letter D is definitely not in the right spot when doing a 180 degree rotation. And again, if you have patty paper, or if you wanted to do this on a scratch sheet of paper and rotate it 180 degrees, you'll notice that obviously it will end up in the same vicinity as option number C, okay? Or option C, letter C. That is all. Okay, so again, you will be given 2 days, tomorrow and Friday, to work on this test. Okay, so please make sure you take your time tomorrow. Please make sure you study not only this, but even the quiz that we had given, that I gave back to my students today. Any questions, come and see me in the morning. But other than that, good luck studying, guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow.